Hi everyone, I'm Lesley O'Toole. I'm a contributor to Backstage and the Los Angeles Times. I'm thrilled to introduce two of the cast members and the producer and director of the film. We'll start with Xander Berkeley, who I'm sure you know from many films, who plays Mario Castelnuovo-Tedesco. And then we have director and producer Adam Cushman. Leo Marks, who is Jerry Herst, of course, and producer David Phillips. Congratulations, guys. It's a beautiful movie, such a gorgeous period piece and so educational and very interesting at this particular time, I think. Awards season, you know, somebody who was so overlooked by Hollywood. It happens all the time. So I'd just like to ask you, Adam and David, how this project came about initially.
The executive producer of my first film, Restraint, came to me with this script that was loosely based on letters from his dad and Mario, and asked me if I'd like to direct it. And you know, I jumped right in because I don't have a musical background whatsoever, and so it was an opportunity to really dive into a new field and learn an area I knew nothing about.
At that point, me and Adam, we have similar friend circles. We'd wanted to work together in the past on a few things that didn't end up happening, so he came to me and was like, it was an interesting position where they were looking for a producer, and he recommended me, and we had a pretty good interview, and we kind of saw eye to eye on what we wanted to accomplish, so I was more than happy to be on board.
Did you have more of a musical background than Adam?
Like only slightly, maybe. Way back in many years ago, I did some musicals. I was more of a theater kid coming from Canada, so I had a little bit of singing background, but that was about it.
So Adam, that would seem to be an enormous challenge then. I mean, what made you dive in?
I mean,
music's such a critical component, of course.
The opportunity, but also the opportunity. The stuff that I write and direct generally is very dark, so the chance to do something very light and playful was really appealing. But it was also highly collaborative, and it was a chance to be collaborative and give everyone, all the actors, everyone in the crew, a chance to really shine and use those creative muscles. But you know, the most intimidating thing for me, I think, going into it was, how are we going to create all this music in the narrative? The score was one thing, but the layers of music in the narrative, where, you know, everything that Jerry is playing, all Mario's music, and thankfully we found a really talented composer to come in, and whose name is Luke Eberl. He also plays the kid, the student who is unsure about himself with the glasses in the first act.
Yep.
And that guy is a rock star. I mean, he came in and he did something like 42 cues in 2 weeks. Was his hand double, the piano coach for everybody, and acted in the film. So I had a lot of great people, you know, backing me up.
Obviously, the relationship between the maestro and the pupil is absolutely critical. Did you cast these two together? Did you guys read together? How did you initially get the jobs?
I knew Leo before. We did a short together, and I had seen his work on stage, and as soon as I got the script, I was like, yeah, I was automatically seeing Leo. And then
was that the pianist that you did together, the short?
No, it's called Cut. It's about knife fighting.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But Leo, you are in a short called The Pianist. Are you not playing?
I am. That was
so
sort of cold from this, so that's
right.
true. I'm in two of your shorts technically. That's
so
right.
You really are a pianist?
No, but I'm very, very happy when people ask me that question after watching this movie.
I've actually never made a short called The Pianist, but I will take credit.
But what about the casting of these two?
And then Xander had worked with David on prior films, and you know, I've been watching him since he died so wonderfully in Candyman in like 1991. It's been on my radar ever since, and then he was interested in the project, and I was like, yes, absolutely.
Did any of you know of Mario's story beforehand?
I absolutely did not. No.
It's incredible, isn't it? That this man, I mean, I'm sure you know, so many students, John Williams, Andre Previn, Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, it's absolutely incredible to think someone could have, tutored all these legends, and yet we don't know his name. I mean, was that sort of part of it, that you wanted everybody to know about this guy, for all of you?
Well, one of the things that I really was excited about was Adam since day one. Talking to our executive producer, who was the writer, we wanted to put Mario's music in the movie about Mario, and that was something that I think I was excited about. And also, exactly what you just said. We're talking about the Yoda of composers, and no one knows who he is. And so the idea of making a film about him, in addition to using his music, and so at the very end, his credit comes first, was something that was really exciting.
Yep. So what was it about him for you, Xander?
Well, so many things, it's hard to even know where to begin. I've done, I related on a lot of levels because I was a sort of a master of disguise in a lot of ways as an actor, and I didn't pursue fame. I tried to be a good assistant to directors as a storyteller, and disguise myself and become the character in the story, and let the story be my God, and disappear into the fabric of the story, if that's what was called for, or sacrifice my vanity and be unappealing and unlikable if I had to be unlikable. And I did that early on, and I think I got sort of typed as unlikable. And directors, even friends, would say, I can't cast you in the, I'd say, what about that brother? I can't cast you in that. We have to like that guy. I go, but you like me. Don't you? And they go, yeah, but we've seen you play these. They said, but no, people don't know it's the same guy first of all, from one film to the next. They don't recognize me when I go out. And it was because you weren't supposed to like them, that you didn't like them. And I let them not like me. A lot of actors won't do that on some level. Something holds them back from being unliked. But if you were supposed to like me, I bet you I could make them like me. And so in a weird kind of way, after, we premiered this on Friday, and it was uncanny for me because it was the 40th anniversary of my coming here from New York. And it was the first time I'd ever been given the part of the good guy, of the likable guy. Wow. It took me a long time.
Well, here's to many more.
Thank you. Yeah, and we just I just moved with my wife Sarah, who plays my wife Clarke in the film, and I've skipped out on a party of our nearest and dearest friends because we moved to Maine in July, and for our daughters to grow up outside of LA. And it's a great move, and I'm building a production facility there. We have different properties to turn into film locations, and I'm trying to draw a film industry in there. So I'll see you all there. But I've missed my friends more than anything about Los Angeles, actually, and I love it this time of year. So Mario was a character who didn't care about becoming famous. He really didn't. It didn't matter to him that he was in 200 films and only got credit for 7, because he got first of all, he got out of Italy alive, and then he got to Hollywood and he got to support his family doing what he loved to do, and so he was eternally grateful because he loved doing what he did. Right, and that's the way I've always felt. Just eternally grateful to get to do what I love to do. And now, to me, like with him, I'm sure it was icing on the cake that his students, because he loved to teach, and the thing that was so spectacular about his ability as a teacher was that he didn't try to put his ego out and put his ideas out onto other people so that all of his students sort of sounded like bad copies of him. He helped them find and locate their voice, themselves, and brought it forth, and even helped them determine whether or not they had what it took to do this, and whether it was worth the sacrifice. And he was a teacher of life, not just of music, and he was. And I think he felt tremendously rewarded in having students then go on and become as famous as they were. It was. And you know what I mean? I think that that was as important as ever having his name up in lights in a way, I think.
What sort of research material was available on him? Is there footage of him?
There was a fair amount.
A long time ago.
For me, my performance is dedicated to my best friend from childhood, Peter John Backus, who was a composer, a player and a composer, and he married a girl in Barcelona, moved over there, and I got to see him right before we started filming, and he died a month later, and he was brilliant man, and beautiful soul. And I got to watch him teach old people in Barcelona, and he was sick and thin as a rail, but he was just had that same joy of life that Mario has, and he was strict, and yet he was just so funny and lovely as he taught. And he knew a lot about Mario, and he shared his knowledge about composition and so many things with me about before I started the film. So I'll shut up.
And are you a pianist too, or no?
No.
Well,
I sort of joke and say, like, Daniel Day-Lewis gets a year, and I don't blame him. I would take it if I could ever get it.
How long did you have?
A week, 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Well, it's very impressive.
Get the accent right.
Yes. Now, you may not know the screenplay was written by C.V. Herst, Jerry Herst's son. So presumably you've met him, and what did he tell you about his dad, and how accurate is your story in the film? Is there anything added for cinematic effect?
Apparently, the cigarettes and the drinking are highly inaccurate.
Yeah,
and he would have you know that.
Then,
he didn't love that, but and we got to. I think that sort of the milestones of his life and this relationship are exactly accurate, and then we played within that, and he gave us a script, and he allowed us to have a fair amount of latitude within those set steps along the way. So. That he had a father who was not so excited about him pursuing an artistic career is very true. Yep. That he'd had a hit early on, and then nothing had really come of that, and he had left and pursued law and had come back. All of that is exactly right, and I think we really leaned on the sort of that question that everyone in this room knows about. Do I have it, and what is this life, and what does it require of me, and is making it consonant with feeling authentic to my art, and are there other pathways to happiness and to fulfillment? I think that was stuff that we brought out, I would say, more than he might have seen in his own dad originally. So it was an interplay between what we felt we could give and draw on in ourselves, and what we had been handed by him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. What sort of experience was it for all of you to play in this real old-time Hollywood populated with these major characters? I mean, it was just so phenomenal to watch, so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got to dance with Sid Charisse.
Yep.
It was sort of. I think Jerry's experience of that is probably a little like mine would be. It was like, hey, kid in a candy store, I'll take it. I'll run with this beautiful moment.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry's son actually plays Stravinsky in the film. Does he not?
Right.
I mean, what about the casting though of all those legends? I mean, how important was it that they might look a little like them?
We got lucky with a few of them. I mean, for example, I'm friends with Bobby Campo, who plays Gene Kelly. Who suddenly I was looking at real pictures of Gene Kelly. I'm like, dude, this is easy.
Yeah.
But some of the other ones were sort of made up or cryptically based on other people. Like Polito's character is sort of an amalgam of 2 or 3 people who worked in the studios at that time. But the playfulness that you mentioned is to me was like the really enjoyable thing about this project. For example. The beat poet in the jazz scene. I think in the script it was something like, Sam watches as Jerry plays with the quartet, and there was an opportunity. Knowing what year it was, I was like, wow, this could maybe be like a young Ferlinghetti type figure. You just have fun with it. You sort of add your own truth.
Yeah, we had a blast casting this. I think the thing was that the good thing about working with Adam is that he really liked a lot of the people that I liked and the people that I wanted to bring to the project, and then in turn I really liked a lot of the people that Adam had suggested for certain characters and certain things.
And like Mackenzie, who's in the last film that we did together, Mackenzie Aston.
Yes.
I mean, you couldn't get a better dead ringer for Brother, and what a spectacular actor he is too. And I mean,
Yes. Now, your
Gem to work with, I gotta say.
your accent is phenomenal, Xander, and you're English and Scottish by background. So how difficult was that? I imagine that was even harder than the piano playing.
Well, I've had a lot of Italian friends. I've traveled a lot, and you sort of channel people. For me, when you it's like switching in on a channel, and people ask me if it was hard to stay in that character, and I don't remember it being hard once I sort of found him, and it was just such a joy for me to not play, because I've got 2 little girls, and I just wanted them someday to see me in something where Daddy wasn't a shitheel. You know what I mean? And so I was just so happy to play something light and positive, and so I just felt like I would just float into a bubble every time I would find him. And as I was finding him, as Adam and I was working, we listened to the real Mario's voice, which had such a heavy German sound to it. Oh, really? That yes, because he was from Germany. Yeah. He was German. No, he wasn't from Germany, but he was German educated. His teacher of English was German. So that's where all the recordings of him speaking English had very much of a German accent to him, and I can't remember exactly, but it was very unpleasant to listen to. And he's Jewish, and that would not have worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Escaping Mussolini's Italy to do what? But yeah, so I thought of all the Italian people that I've known that just charmed me in my life, and who I've goofed, and I recommend this. Even if it annoys some of your friends, if you put on accents and goof around and play a character for periods of time, do as many as you can, as consistently as you can, so they're sort of in the ready when it comes up to play that part. And you do ones that you can conceivably you could convince people that you could be. Like, don't go too heavy with things that you just never could play, but but the ones that you could, I've always got a Russian in the ready to go. I've always got a German in the ready to go. Not the one that I just did. I don't know what the hell I was doing there. Because I was trying to remember, because there was some Italian in it. There was something that was weird. It just wasn't right. We decided right off the bat, no.
We just couldn't imagine over 90 minutes listening to that voice.
Yeah.
That basically.
No. So we wanted to find something lyrical and lovely, so there's a lot of back and forth, something musical, something much in a much higher register than my own voice, because I wanted to make him feel like he was a smaller person than I am.
Yes.
Because Mario was.
Yep.
And something that would be just effervescent.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it was that sort of, and then once you find it, then you just sort of, it's like a channel, and you just switch to that channel and you're in it. I remember working with Gary Oldman and Sid and Nancy, and it was like one of his first films, and he didn't do what so many American actors, and I'd been through every different form of training, and I'd sort of borrowed from here and from there and from the other place, preparing, and he sort of made fun of it, and he would, when he had to get into Sid Vicious mode, even down and completely at the bottom stages of heroin abuse, and he would just go, my dog is dead, and collapse onto the floor, and like as a joke, and he would just go from bing to bang, and he was in it, and I thought, you don't need to do all that bullshit. You don't need, while everybody's sitting around like, well, you're preparing. You can just do it.
Yeah.
Switch the channel and turn it on.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Ever since then, I've sort of felt like, don't keep people waiting.
Yep. Leo,
don't make
did you
yourself
just do
wait.
it,
Don't
finding
sort
Jerry?
of intellectualize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very different path to what I was doing, right? I mean, much closer to me in a lot of ways. Although, I mean, certainly externally, there's no accent, there's none of the externalities to develop. But you know how I mean, you still, even when you're drawing on yourself, I'm not him. I mean, I'm very different from him in a lot of ways. I'm a lot more intense than Jerry, actually. Like, you know, to sort of find a guy who has a quiet journey and is self-effacing, but still has a really strong need. And for him, it was a lot about someone who hasn't let himself live in his own need, has put his family first, isn't sure he deserves to be here. That's something that that was sort of central for me. What does that mean, and how does that affect your energy? And he's held back. I mean, obviously that's the story, and that's what Mario sees in the first moment, and hopefully we see someone who's very held. So for me, it was thinking along those lines. I had a similar journey in training. I went and studied with the crazy Russians from the Moscow Art Theater, and I expected getting there. I had all these notions of you know, they rehearsed Three Sisters for 17 years before the, you know, I mean, like, this will be the slowest drip by drip process, and immediately when we started working, they were like, now why are you not doing it all the way? And the expectation was leap fully every time, the first time and every subsequent time, and it was a shock, and it was thrilling, and I completely agree. That's do it with your whole self every time, and make it better the next time than it was the last time. Those two things, and you're all set.
Was there anything of the maestro and student on set between the pair of you? I mean, obviously, you know, we've seen you, Xander, in so many
He wouldn't
things,
go for it.
including 2 Oscar-nominated Best Pictures, by the way. But I'm sure you must have taken much from Mr. Berkeley.
Yeah, of course. He's wonderful in this, and getting to be around someone making such a beautiful performance is a gift. It's just a sheer gift.
I mean, is there anything in particular that you might have taken from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that you improvised, Xander, was really something I will carry with me. The way that you took everything that was there, and then you danced within that, that you found things that were funny, that you brought sort of both a truth and a showman's sensibility to it. Those are things that I really admire, and yeah, absolutely will take with me.
And what about working with your wife?
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of that together, because it's just always such a pleasure to not have to, you know,
too hard.
because yeah, and well, I mean that you get to just bring the history, brings so much to the film, because you don't have to act it, and then also you don't have to be, you know, away from each other. You get to be on set together. It's fun, because so often you're working on location and stuff. Be able to be together, and then I think it's really sweet for the kids to be able to see us together too.
Have they seen it?
They haven't seen this one yet.
Oh.
We just my wife and I just did this little teaser thing for a film, to proof of intent, or whatever they call this, sizzle reel. I don't know what they call it.
That's it.
But a dear friend who wants to direct his first film, great actor. Up there in Maine, he's from here, but has a house in Maine on an island, and a great idea. And it was our littlest girl, Rowan. I'd done one film with my older daughter, but Sarah and I did this one with our youngest, and that was so amazing. And I really hope that we can raise the money to do that as a feature, because that would just be a dream come true. But yeah, you know, I think one of the things I want to just bring up, there's something, you know, it seems like every Hollywood movie is always about the greatest this, or the most successful that, and it looks like they aren't going to make it, but then they do. Oh, what a surprise.
Yes. Yep.
Who would have guessed it? But this one's about the 90.9 or 99 point whatever percent of everybody that strives to become an artist or a painter or an actor or a writer, musician, and doesn't get there.
Yep.
But that perilous, torturous but beautiful journey of experiencing life to the fullest while trying to find yourself, trying to bring it to see if you can get there, and that's a story that's never told, and that we got to tell it. So yeah, we got to tell it through a tiny little movie, but look at this movie. You guys all came tonight and you watched it, and I find the movie really moving in that respect, that it's about a guy who maybe didn't have it. And what is it? And it's such a fascinating thing. But that line at the end about that maybe we aren't all cut out to be the greatest, but to do small things with great love. Like that line just kills me every time. And I think that we don't, in our obsessed with celebrity and our culture, it's just so great to see that idea put forth, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yes. Bravo. Yeah. I don't want to get too emotional, as we have gone there already, but this is John Polito's last film. I just wonder, can you each talk about him and what he meant to you and how important he is?
Yeah, I mean, I loved this guy. I mean, he was wonderful, and we were very lucky to get him. But we talked to you about this on the day. Some actors show up, and you don't even need to do anything. You just let them do their thing, and he was hilarious. He had us rolling from the very beginning, and we had no idea. I actually didn't know he was as sick as he was, so I was very surprised. 2 months later to hear what I heard. But yeah, I think that was probably the funnest day of production.
Yeah, John and I had been in rooms together auditioning for maybe the past 35 years. And he was one of those guys that would always, like, when he came into the room, Xander, oh my God, what did I just see you in? Oh, you were so fucking good. Oh my God, oh my God. And he would hug you, and it's like, and it was genuine. And he was it's just like, so when Adam said, Polito, we can get Polito. I could work with John. Oh my God, I've wanted to work with him for so long. And then to find out he was sick, and then to find but we did get to work together. God damn it. And I loved that man. He was such a beautiful cat. And we had so much fun that day. Oh.
I think one of the biggest achievements, this has been a really big weekend for us. We opened and we're coming out, and even being here, obviously, and having people watch it. But I think one of the biggest achievements was that somebody very close to John was at the premiere and went to Adam immediately after and said how proud he was and how he knew that John would be very proud that this was his final film. And that, for us, I think, was probably the crowning achievement of this entire weekend.
Can you talk about any budget or time constraints you had on the film? Somebody wanted to know what your actual budget was. Can you share that?
We had no budget and all the time in the world, apparently. I'm going to stick to that answer.
Okay, well, how long was the shoot then?
16 days? Yeah,
roughly.
About 16 days with a couple, I think, pickups.
18 in 1 day pickups, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it looks like you have a lot of budget up there. Can you talk about, the constraints of shooting a period drama like this with perhaps limited money?
You have to really, really be discerning in the frame. I mean, and no excuses. Nothing can interrupt the dream. That's how I approached it. Nothing can interrupt the dream. And, my cinematographer got mad at me because I was like 500 meters. I saw a Toyota cross the street in 2 seconds. I'm like, no, do it over. But at the same time, there are areas of LA that looked very period. And we happened to, we shot most of this in the West Adams area, which is great visually, terrible for sound. But I think, and it's also what you can do with a little. I mean, we had I don't remember how many cars we had, but the temptation on these productions is to, we got to line the street with cars. But you'd be surprised how much how much mileage you can get out of 3 cars, really.
Yeah, I think we had 3 and 4, and then like we would just place them differently.
Great gas mileage, but
and sometimes I think in post we even color corrected one a little different than it was in the other scene, so it wouldn't look that glaringly obvious. No, but I also think when you have a project like this, it's all about passion, and it's and it's not just in front of the camera. And maybe there's people out there that also want to direct and produce. I'm certain there is, but it's about getting people on board like Xander and Adam whose passion, and Leo, whose passion is infectious and contagious, and everyone on board, and even with the crew, having a production designer who sees this as the biggest opportunity of their life. And they're going to work their ass off and do everything they can.
Costume design. I mean,
costume designer,
they
exactly.
brought it, man. For nothing, they brought it.
Exactly. So it's just about keeping everyone positive and fed, and trying to reduce the amount of ego and stuff. And luckily, there wasn't much of that because we were very fortunate that we had some really great actors and crew people that really stuck in there. So, yeah.
David, I wonder if you can talk a little about your journey. You began in Canada as the host of a kids' video game show, and then you had an extensive foray into Shakespeare.
Kids' video game show? I didn't know that.
I'd keep that.
And then you said
Can
you
you sing a song for us? I didn't know about the singing.
We'll find the clip.
I'm filled with secrets, Xander.
But you came here to act, but you found the whole process slightly dispiriting and ended up starting your own production company.
Well, that's pretty much it. I don't know what to add. No, when I was in Canada, I went to a pretty big theater school up there, Ryerson, and then immediately after that, I ended up getting a job hosting this really cheesy but popular kids game show, and I did that for a couple of years, but eventually I got into the Stratford Festival, which is a big Shakespearean festival up there, and so I did that for 3 years, and then moved back to Toronto, but because I'd gone to that school, a bunch of my really good buddies had come to LA and were doing really good, and were on shows, and so I was always kind of curious. So I came down here to see Toronto Maple Leafs Los Angeles Kings game, because of course, being Canadian, I'm a hockey guy. And at that game, I met an agent that was interested in repping me, and an immigration lawyer that was telling me it'd be okay. So I decided to try it out, and it was kind of miraculous, like in the first 6 months. And I know this never happens, but I ended up booking the lead of this movie that was shooting in Toronto and had a pretty big budget, and there were some famous people. And like, oh my God, I've made the right choice. My life is going to be amazing now. And I remember on the 6th day of shooting that movie, they handed me sides, and come from a theater background, you just want to give the best performance you can to what the script is. You don't ever really question the script, but they handed me new sides, and I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I was like, oh no, I think this movie's gonna suck. So that was kind of disparaging, and then there was a couple more films that kind of the same thing sort of happened, and then I ended up getting an opportunity to produce with some great people, and I thought, why not? I'll give this a shot, and I found that I actually really enjoyed that, because sometimes as an actor it's tough because you end up feeling like a pawn or somebody else. You never know the answers of why something went wrong or why certain things are the way they are. And what I really enjoyed was the fact that if I watch the movie, I know the flaws in every film more than anyone else does, and I know why this happened, because that day this ran late and we had to cut this, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think I kind of enjoyed that, as well as working with great people, like Adam and Xander and Leo in a different sort of way. So that creativity still is there, but kind of it's the difference between
you can hire yourself. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Well,
come on, Jess.
That was Adam that put me in the movie. For the record.
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah.
And you went, I don't know if that guy's right for the part. Okay.
I was like, well, he is pretty good.
Yeah. And Adam, can you talk about your journey? How you got to this point?
I have to cut out. I have to get back to my friends. Can I?
Oh.
Can I? Is it all right? I feel like I got to run because they all drove over there and I had to cut out.
Thanks, Andy.
Sorry.
All right, we'll just do 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, was directing always your path? Adam?
I mean, I think it was my journey. My journey began in my childhood bedroom playing with Star Wars toys, and I would have these legions of troops and battles, and then occasionally my mom would be like, hey, I want to have a friend over. Like, all right. And the friend would come over, and they would attempt to play with me, and they would try to like stage things. I'd be like, no, that's not going to work. Sorry. And, they'd be like, well, what if I kill all these guys? I'm like, you're going to have to call your mom. I'm sorry. and it started there. And I think for a long time, I did a lot of theater, and I did a lot of drama classes. And in my mind, I was like, I want to be an actor. And I think around 16, 17, I realized, no, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I dove in. I started writing. I started as a novelist and a short story writer, and then I moved on to screenplays, and then eventually directing.
And what are you doing next?
Well, we're at the maybe we jinx it moment, so I don't want to say too much. It is a really wonderful project that has to do with gun control. I won't say much else.
Oh, well, thank you very much, guys. Congratulations on the movie. It's playing at the Cine Arena in Hollywood until Friday, and it's out on VOD on the 19th. Tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
And I wouldn't be a producer at all if I didn't say, please let people know you saw the movie. And if you liked it, tell them that, because we're not like the other studio features that were here. We need help. And you guys
Word
are
of
actors.
mouth.
And
There's a Facebook page and a Twitter. And an
Instagram, no?
And if you write us an Amazon review, I will buy you a beer.
thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.